Welcome back to the next edition of What's Your Wheelhouse. I'm your host, Megan Bauer, Head of Customer Success at Spinwheel, and today I am joined by Colton Pond. Colton, you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
I would love to, Megan. First off, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Colton Pond, I've got a long explanation. I'll try and shorten it. The gist is I'm a self-proclaimed fintech nerd, and everything I do is focus on fintech in my day-to-day life and in my spare time. So finding something that is my wheelhouse in a personal time outside of fintech was relatively challenging. But I am the global CMO at Socure, co-founder at FinTech NerdCon. If anyone has not been to FinTech NerdCon last year, shout out, you should come. San Diego, November, going to be awesome, diving into deep dive fintech insights. And I love all things fintech. I spend my day now thinking a lot about fraud, identity, trust, and the future of the global economy. And excited to dig in, Megan.
Awesome. We're super happy to have you on today's episode, Colton. I know you're an expert in all things fintech, but today we're going to focus on your specific wheelhouse, which for you is first-party fraud, deep fakes, and ultimately what that means for lending. So, what should people understand about this right now that they probably don't?
Yeah, what I love about this that we decided to talk about, Megan, is we're converging my two worlds together. Lots of folks know me for 3 years. I was the chief marketing officer at LoanPro and helped build the LoanPro brand as a modern lending infrastructure. I'm now the global CMO at Socure, at the leading trust infrastructure, driving trust back into the global economy. And those two worlds colliding is very interesting because if you think what's happening today in the world, we are entering into this AI era in which there's a lot of good things happening, but there's a lot of bad negative consequences as well. And the first and largest one is you can't trust what you see anymore. And without trust, a global economy doesn't work. Like if we have no trust that you are selling me something and I am buying something, we're gonna have to go back to like brick and mortar and store purchases because there's no level of trust. On the lending side, that's extremely pertinent because you as a lender are trusting me that I am Colton. Not only that I am Colton, but I am also Colton, someone that you want to give money to, and I'm going to repay you money. And we're seeing a huge proliferation of acceleration of fraudsters using AI to be able to deepfake who I am in a way that's indiscernible relative to reality to the human eye. And then the other trend that we're seeing a significant amount on is first-party fraud. We did at Socure a major research study among consumers a few months ago. 62% of consumers admitted to committing a first-party fraud act over the past year. So consumers are lying, and first-party fraud is becoming what they view as a gray area in which they're lying to be able to get a loan, get a credit card, or get approved for something on the lending side, and is a huge growing problem.
I'm curious about that. Did you, was the question directly, hey, did you commit first party fraud? Or is it, hey, have you said this or, portrayed something this way in order to get an outcome that you want?
Yeah, so generally when people, if you were to ask people, and going back to my research days when I was in academia, if you ask you, Megan, have you committed fraud? Oh, shoot, fraud is a bad thing. I'm not going to say yes. But if you explain to someone what first party fraud is, have you inflated your income to be able to get a loan?
Mhm.
Have you disputed a Uber Eats order when you actually received the food and it was just fine? And a whole long list of first party fraud aspects. People are like, "Oh yeah, I've done that thing," and that's okay. And they reason with themselves that it's totally fine. The other thing that AI has done is accelerate my ability to create fake photos that are not real. So if you think historically, we'll take the Uber Eats example, right? Say I go to Uber Eats and say, "Hey, I didn't receive my phone food." Initially, they're like, "Okay, yeah, sure, I trust you." But then as more people catch on to that and request, we were just like, well, send us a picture. Show me that the food was all messed up or the food was cold or you didn't receive this item and picture. But in an age in which you could trust what you could see, that's sufficient. In an age in which I could take a picture, I can upload it to ChatGPT, I can ask it to change something in that picture and send that picture, you can't trust what you see anymore. So there's other dimensions and data points that you need to look at to assess is Colton who he says he is? And do want to do business with Colton? Is Colton a trustworthy person?
Yeah. I'm almost surprised that the number was 62% and maybe not higher, to be honest. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't know. The stat kind of, I feel like it could be
It's
both.
it's increasingly growing too, and it's growing at a really, really rapid rate. We did the study 7 or 8 months ago. If we did it today, my guess, strong assumption would be it would be even higher today for sure.
Crazy. What's one of the craziest things or silliest things you've heard in this space lately or seen? And on top of that too, what are people getting wrong about it?
Hmm. One, I'll start with the last one. People are getting wrong thinking that uh, AI is not impacting fraud rates and other aspects. If I was talking with a major credit union the other day, and they mentioned to me, they said, "Hey, our board doesn't really believe deepfakes and these other things are accelerating fraud." That's just like fundamentally not true. Fraud is on a hockey stick growth rate, and fraudsters and normal people with first-party fraud are using AI to commit fraud at like rapid accelerating rates. Um, and there are a lot of crazy things happening. I would say one of the biggest surprises that I've seen since being here at Socure is just the rate in which fraudsters collaborate. So our research team does a
With
lot
each
of
other.
work around fraud rings and identifying fraud rings and how they find vulnerabilities. And these groups are talking on Telegram and other aspects, and they're collaborating and coordinating. And when they find a vulnerability, then they all attack that vulnerability and go after that vulnerability. So fraudsters are collaborating at an accelerated rate too. We as an industry that need to fight fraud aren't collaborating nearly enough, and we need to do much more of that collaboration to fight fraud together.
That's fascinating. Do you think that they like the fraudster ring, as you've kind of, dubbed it, is it because when they find an area to exploit, they're worried that it's going to close quickly once someone starts at it? Is there power in numbers with all of them like attacking one area? What's the reason behind the collaboration?
There's power in collaboration because they're able to find vulnerabilities and then attack those vulnerabilities for sure. Historically, the cost of fraud was much higher though. So like folks would only focus on certain areas of vulnerability that were like high value areas, like onboarding. Onboarding for a loan. If I get approved for a loan for $20,000, I can take that, for example. What AI has done is decrease the cost of fraud to near zero so they can launch sophisticated fraud attacks at scale. And when they find those vulnerabilities, it's like, okay, we're all working together. So like you find a vulnerability, I find a vulnerability, this person finds a vulnerability, and then we attack, and I'm able to accelerate my if I'm a fraudster, my revenue, because me as a fraudster, I run a P&L just like a normal business. My revenue is taking fraud. I have costs. Cost of fraud has gone down to zero. I'm collaborating to increase my revenue, which ultimately what it does for us in the industry fighting fraud, and our team has dubbed the term World War of Fraud, and that we are in together a world war on fraud. We need to unify together and collaborate much more closely to be able to fight fraud that is increasing at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to see the details behind those P&Ls for the fraudsters.
They don't publish them. They don't report them to the IRS,
Yes.
unfortunately. But I agree. Our team does, though, do a lot of research on those fraud rings and tracking those fraud rings and analyzing the insights from those fraud rings and using the insights in which we see on how fraudsters are attacking to share those insights and research with our customers. So their fraud defenses can be much more sophisticated based on how fraudsters are jointly collaborating and attacking.
Yeah, yeah,
We
fascinating.
like to say we wake up every day and we fight fraud. So like we're putting on our battle gear going to war.
Yeah, it's a good fight to fight. Um, you've shared like a ton of, examples, details, things that you've seen from your research and just experience. I guess what are the biggest challenges or one of the biggest challenges that you're facing right now?
How do we get the industry to collaborate at an accelerated pace? G- Generally, folks agree that like even if we're competitors, fraud is bad, and we want to eliminate fraud. If I'm a BNPL provider and you're a BNPL provider, we can both agree that like we don't like fraud. Um, but to collaborate at an accelerated pace requires the sharing of data and other aspects. And it's slower than I believe that we need to be in the ecosystem. Ultimately, like we need to join arms and find ways to fight fraud and ultimately put more money back in the hands of good consumers and good businesses. If you look at the lending side, they need access to capital because if I could cut my fraud rates, this would be a large percentage, but say I could cut my fraud rates by 100 basis points by 1%, then I can give a much better rate to consumers and put more money back in consumers' hands, right? So in the aggregate, as we decrease the amount of money that fraudsters are able to access, we're able to put more money back in hands of consumers, and we need to collaborate to do so.
It's almost like we need like a fraud summit or something.
A fraud summit. We have a consortium that many of the top lenders, banks, credit unions, various folks, marketplace and gig providers contribute data to on the first party fraud side, because first
Mhm.
party fraud are folks lying and they generally are multiple abusers. And that if I dispute a bunch of transactions in a credit card and close it, I do the same thing somewhere else. So, consortium summit, the more that we can collaborate in sharing learnings and sharing data to fight fraud, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you we talked about, the challenges with the fraud and lending. Do you have any numbers behind like the dollar amount that I guess the fraudsters are getting as part of this first party lending? Or like you said, being able to get money back and then have that be something that you redistribute amongst customers, right? If it wasn't getting lost in fraud, what are those figures looking like? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, great question. I have the numbers generally not specific to lending, but generally speaking, if you look over the past 4 years, fraud has grown. I need to do some mental math here. 380% over the past 4 years. And then many folks and many big consulting firms have predicted over the next 5 years, what does it do? And it generally, like conservative estimates, says fraud losses are going to like 5, 6, 7x over the next 5 years. And they're just using AI to be able to launch much more sophisticated fraud attacks, right? We saw in our network, in the Socure network, among 3,000 enterprises that are our customers, last year, AI-based fraud attacks increased by 8,000% year over year. Deep fakes, injection attacks, like some of these aspects. So it's everyone can agree that fraud's only going up into the right until we build the right systems and rely on the right data and models and collaboration to outsmart the fraudsters. And it's a constantly evolution and changing fight because fraudsters are learning and growing and adapting too. And so we as an industry and our defense system needs to do the same.
Yeah, the multipliers are crazy. Things just accelerated such a higher clip than they used to before. So getting in front of that problem is something to solve. Do you think that lenders or even, any industry today, people are open to trying to figure out how to, um, not open to figure out how to solve this, but like are they moving quick enough to say, hey, we have to get in front of these problems or we want to put these new practices or systems into place to solve this, or is there still some hesitancy or
Right.
resistance, if you
There's
will?
definitely not hesitancy. There's a lot of openness for sure. I would say we're never moving fast enough at the pace that we need to be able to fight the pace at which fraud is changing and evolving. We need to find ways to move faster as an industry at large. The other big problem, and this is not a lending specific problem, it is a general problem, is relying on legacy infrastructure, legacy data, legacy models is not going to get you to where you need to be. Yeah, you've got to, on the fraud and identity side, constantly look at how are you evolving and changing your strategy and the infrastructure that you rely on to be the most modern, the most cutting edge. If a provider stops innovating, fraud has changed in 2 weeks, and if you're on an outdated model from 3 years ago that isn't good at catching that was catching deepfakes 3 years ago, deepfake technology, if you look at there's lots of videos online from 3 years ago today is tremendously different. So speed and agility are two really, really, really important factors to fighting fraud.
Yeah, you're giving me a lot of ideas here. I don't know if that's a good thing, but all right. So this is a little bit kind of inception-y, if you will. We're talking about all of the things that are happening because of AI today to commit fraud. So AI makes it easier to commit fraud, but it also makes it, gives you the ability to fight fraud, right? So what should companies be thinking about how they should use AI to do that, or where can they start?
Megan, the easy answer is partner with Socure because we're the leading AI trust infrastructure. We use AI and we've been using AI even before AI was cool on when we were building out machine learning models to fight fraud. And like we were one of the leading and first original true AI native trust infrastructures using AI to fight AI fraud. But the core aspect, the way that we look at the world and the way that I look at the world is you need data and you need the best data and signals and the strongest breadth of data and signals. And then you need those to feed into models and the best performing models possible used to fight new fraud directly integrated into an orchestration system or a decisioning system in which you can make adjustments in real time. For example, fraudsters will find vulnerabilities. The only way to stop fraud and eliminate fraud is shut the front door, which folks are never going to do. So as you see fraud attacks, you need a nimble system and or orchestration layer or a decision layer to be able to make adjustments and shut that door. So as they collaborate, not very many people go through the door. And then the other aspect that I would highlight is fraudsters are getting increasingly smart and increasingly patient. So something like a synthetic identity where I create with some fabricated information fake identity of a fake person that looks and operates real. They may have a credit report. They may have all these other things. They are planting these synthetic identities, waiting, letting them mature, and then eventually attacking. So this idea of only focusing on uh, loan origination in the front door is no longer sufficient. You need to focus on the front door and origination, and then the continual cycle, we call it continuous identity verification and identity monitoring, to determine did I previously let in a synthetic identity and is there now a new signal that I have that this is highly likely to be a synthetic identity? And what do I then need to do about it? So it is this continual view of evaluating and verifying and identity and protecting the front door, the side door, the back door, the windows, the chimney, where historically the industry in financial services has been very focused on only the front door.
So, Colton, you're talking about the long game here, or they're extremely patient. Like, are we talking weeks, months, years? How long are fraudsters willing to be patient for?
All of the above. I was talking with a customer the other day who have seen patients to the degree of like 15, 16, 17 years of creating synthetic identities. So then some in weeks and some in months and some in a couple or a few years. The key aspect though is like thinking about identity continuous, not just at one single point of time.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild. The long game is real, I guess.
The long game is real.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this is so amazing, so fascinating. Like I said, you've given me a lot of ideas. Hopefully, you won't find me in the first line fraud anytime soon. I don't plan to. But it is truly very interesting. It's great to hear about all the things that you guys are doing to help to prevent this, because obviously it's an ever evolving and escalating issue. So it's good to know that there's the good guys out there too. Um, so we love learning about this, but I also want to hear a little bit about what's your personal wheelhouse outside of, work when you have time to think about other things. What are you most interested in?
Yeah, great question. As I mentioned, Megan, I'm a huge fintech nerd. So like in my spare time, I read about fintech, I do research and things like that. But when we spoke, there were two that I mentioned. Everyone knows I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a very huge New York Yankee fan, but I want to take a different angle. I'm actually a avid and very big scuba diver. I've been diving in 12, 13 countries from Fiji to Japan to Hawaii to Maldives to the Great Barrier Reef just recently, Indonesia, which was incredible. And it is one of the only places my team knows this about me and that I'm always connected. I'll always respond. Some people ask like when I sleep, and I try to sleep the very least possible. But when you're underwater, there's no reaching me, right? Like that's the only time that I actually have some level of like Zen and can think. And for anyone that's been scuba diving, for anyone that hasn't been scuba diving, you should consider it and strongly think about it because you go down there and it's like for lack of a pun of a movie, it is kind of like a whole new world. Like it is very very, very different and a very unique and just fascinating perspective. Seen everything from manta rays to sharks to turtles to everything imaginable, and it's awesome. It's so much fun.
Yeah, you don't get sick of it?
You definitely don't get sick of it. No, I even had a scuba diving. I went to Belize for my birthday. I had a scuba diving accent where I was in a decompression chamber for 18 hours, which is a whole nother story that
Oh,
we
because
can
of
go
the
on another
bend?
time. It was. I did up the bends and then got back on a year later. I was like, let's go. Where are we going? We went to Indonesia and Great Barrier Reef and dove 24 times in a month.
Oh my gosh, that might be enough for me to not go back out there, but kudos to you. What's your favorite place that you've been?
Ooh, favorite dive I've ever been on is the Manta Night Dive in Kona in the Big Island in Hawaii.
Did you say night dive?
Incredible. Yeah, you go down, they put these big lights, you kneel on the ground, and these big manta rays come like swoop over your head, and they just eat the plankton because the plankton are attracted to the lights, and then manta rays eat plankton, and they come swoop and just eat the plankton, and then more plankton come, and then they eat the plankton again, which is fascinating. But favorite place overall, this best dive, favorite place overall is Komodo in Indonesia. Diving was in a different world. Like it was absolutely,
Indescribable.
yeah.
Oh
I
my
got some
gosh.
videos, so if anyone wants to see some videos, send me a DM.
Yeah, okay, that's very cool. Definitely need to see some underwater creatures for sure. That's awesome. I've never gone scuba diving before, so maybe I'll have to tap you for some pro tips, but
Sure.
that's very cool. And it's a great way to see lots of the world, different countries, and everything underneath. So
Agreed. Yeah.
very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Colton. Super interesting topic. Love to hear how you guys are kind of solving the world's problems, keeping us safe, and then, of course, learning a little bit about your scuba diving habits. So thank you again, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Megan. See ya.